All right, tonight I would like to discuss the concept of the duality of the mind. And when we talk about God and goddess, oftentimes people are thinking in terms of some sort of external anthropomorphic deity that is out in the sky, I guess, looking for some sort of supplication and doling out rewards and punishments and somehow making the world go round. You can think of it that way, but that's not how I think of the god and goddess. The god and goddess to me are aspects of consciousness. They are forces of nature. And if you consider the Hermetic principle of polarity, which also moves into another Hermetic principle called that of gender, you will notice that the god and the goddess are genderfied principles of polarity. So much like the anything in the universe has two sides to it, there is a duality in consciousness, and that is male and female. So male and female consciousness, meaning from the perspective of the mind, is that the male consciousness is that which is the seed. So that is our conscious, active principle. It's the part of the mind which chooses, which decides. And then the feminine aspect, or the goddess aspect of our minds, is the unconscious, the dark womb wherein the seed is planted, where it gestates, and then will become birthed as experience in the physical three-dimensional universe. So from a magical perspective, then, we need to recognize that in the mind, the God mind, the male mind, the active mind, the conscious mind is always choosing. And those choices act as seeds that get planted, or seeds that impregnate the feminine aspect of our mind, which is the unconscious mind. Remember that everything that is impregnated, whether it's in the ground or in a womb, goes in the dark, goes below the surface, goes into darkness in order to gestate. And then when it has completed its cycle, it is able to be birthed back into the light, so back into what we would call maybe three-dimensional reality. So there is a process by which we, when we're dealing with practical magic, that we need to recognize those two forces within our mind, that the conscious mind must choose and must plant the seed within the feminine mind, and then the feminine mind, the deep mind, then does its thing, which is beyond our understanding, beyond our awareness, and beyond our control. And that's why oftentimes we have to remind ourselves that our job as choosers is to do the impregnating, and the goddess mind, the unconscious mind, has to stay outside of the realm of the light, cannot be part of our conscious, waking consciousness. So we don't necessarily want to concern ourselves with the how of manifestation. We want to concern ourselves with the what of manifestation. So Our job is to choose and to do the work and then to let it go. And we've spoken of this many, many times, that sometimes the best thing to do is to do your spell work and then forget about it. Go get busy doing something else, because it comes to pass when you least expect it. So I think it's very important to remember that not only are we choosing our thing, that what we want, we're also choosing a lot of what we don't want out of habit. So how are habits formed? Well, habits are formed by repetition. So if you want to learn how to play the piano, you play particular patterns, you work at particular techniques within the fingers, and you repeat those actions over and over again until such a time that they become second nature and you don't have to think about them so much. And that's actually when you start getting really good, when you're not consciously having to make decisions about your fingers, that the fingers just do it automatically. That's similar to what we're talking about with our spell work. We're planting the seed through the practicing, and then it becomes part of our autonomic nervous system. It becomes habit. So we want all of our spell work to become habit. When the idea is that whatever it is that we're looking to accomplish, whether it be maybe a relationship, you want a new relationship, you want to be able to repeat the pattern over and over with your conscious mind as you're impregnating the deeper mind, the feminine mind, so that it becomes a habit. And you don't have to worry about where your relationship is coming from. It's coming from wherever it comes from. You don't have to worry. It has to show up, because the habitual nature of our mind is such that it influences our sphere of influence completely, and it expands our sphere of influence completely. So if you're looking to let's say get a promotion, get a particular type of job, your job is to choose the what. The how it comes about really is beyond what you have to concern yourselves with. It's almost like it's none of our business how it comes about. It comes about in mysterious ways. It's beyond our understanding. So let's take some examples here. How do you impregnate your deep mind? Okay, so the easiest way to do magic, the simpler is better. This idea of real complicated spells might have its place somewhat, but for the most part, the simple way is the most powerful way. The simplest way to do a magical spell is that you need to relax the body, relax the mind, get yourself into a state of semi-trance. Slow down the brain waves, slow down, the tension is dropped from the body, and begin to focus your concentration on the goal. Now, the best way to focus your concentration on the goal is to limit your visualization to a small picture, a small event. So, for instance, you wanted to have this promotion. What would be the most obvious indication that you have the promotion? Maybe somebody is congratulating you, or maybe somebody's giving you a party for it or something like that. Let's just say it's a congratulations. Let's just say that that your mom would call you and say congratulations on your new job. That's so exciting. So in your mind, then you have this image of you picking up your phone and saying, "Hi, Mom," and you hear her say, "Congratulations on your new job," and you say, "Thank you so much." And you do that over and over again. You repeat that scene over and over again, like a loop, for 5 or 10 minutes while you're in that state of trance. And then you wake up and you let it go. Now, very much like when you were learning how to ride a bicycle, pretty soon that picture, if you do it every day, maybe 2 or 3 times a day, just 5 minutes at a time, that picture becomes habitual. You get to where it becomes more and more real to you. Now, I've always said that all magic is a type of sex magic, and the reason why is because of what we were talking about earlier, that the God mind and the goddess mind, the male and the female minds, have to come together to create what it is you want. Now, just like in the physical act of sex, after the act is complete, the desire ebbs. After especially after an orgasm, the desire is pretty much gone, at least momentarily, depending on your libido. And you'll notice that the same thing happens with your spell casting, that pretty soon the desire to do the spell becomes less intense. And that's oftentimes an indication that it's become habitual. You don't need to work on it so much anymore, and you can just let it go and let it manifest. Think in terms of planting seeds into the ground, or planting shoots into the ground, or planting trees. You don't get annoyed that your orange tree is not giving you plums. That doesn't make any sense. You need to plant a plum tree in order to get the plums. Now, let's say you have planted a plum tree and you're still not getting a harvest of plums. Well, then either the tree is sick and you need to either get a tree doctor to come in and fix it, or for some reason the tree is beyond its fruit-bearing years, or you need to just get a new tree. You just need to get a tree that will yield what it is that you want. Perhaps you're trying to grow something in the wrong climate or in the wrong soil, meaning from the perspective of magic, your psychological, mental, magical infrastructure is such that it's the wrong atmosphere to yield the results that you want. So if you're, let's say, doing a spell for money, and then when you're not doing the spell for money, all you're doing is panicking about your bills and panicking about not having enough money, that's not the right environment for that tree or to yield the harvest that you want. So that's why that's another area where the waning moon type magic is very helpful. If you notice that you feel like you're doing a decent job of planting these mental seeds and impregnating your goddess mind with your desire, but it's just not coming to fruition, then you have to look and see, well, what is the soil like? What is the atmosphere like? What is the climate like? And that means, what are my habitual thoughts in regards to this topic? And so then an easy way to handle that is, just like I've talked about many times, is to get a piece of paper and just ask yourself the question, what are my beliefs about whatever it is? Like, what are my beliefs about money? And you do a stream of consciousness. You might even just do a sentence like, the reason I don't have enough money is, and then just complete the sentence as spontaneously as possible without thinking of it. Just see what you can regurgitate, what you come up with. If you're coming up with it, probably there's some truth to it. And if after you get out, maybe a page or so of these things written down, like, I'm not good enough, and I'm not organized enough, and nothing ever works for me, and nobody loves me, and my parents didn't show me how to manage money right, and all that stuff that comes up, then you can look at that list and say, okay, now what are the thoughts on that list that seem to have the most power to me? Which ones do I feel the most uncomfortable about, or which ones seem to have the most emotional energy? And then you can just take those and use those as a catalyst for a spell working. And the way you do that is this: we take the principle of polarity. Okay, so remember, everything has two sides. So poverty and prosperity are the same thing. They're just on different poles of that topic. Loneliness and companionship are the same thing. They're just different poles on that same topic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all we have to do, according to the Hermetic principle, to move from one pole to the other is by attention on the opposite pole. Wherever we place our attention, according to the principle of mentalism, we are magnetized toward that pole. So whatever those thoughts are that are negative, that you don't want anymore, you just have to look at, well, what's the opposite side of that polarity, and what could I focus on instead? Where do I focus my mind? And what's an image that would prove that opposite for me that I can repeat over and over again in my mind, like we were talking about a moment ago, in a state of trance. So, for instance, if you had it on your list of things like, my parents never showed me how to, I don't know, my parents never showed me how to do enough with money, and that's why I'm always broke. So you could say, well, regardless of my past, I'm taking my power back, and I know how to handle money, and it's nice and easy. And for you, that a proof that would be true might be that you have your credit score is over a certain number, and so then you might just see yourself checking your credit score and seeing that it's 750 or something like that over and over again. You just see that image over and over again, and that would be the way that you would initiate that opposite polarity and pull yourself onto the other side of that. It doesn't matter. I mean, you can live on any pole that you want, any part of the polarity that you want. You don't have to be in poverty if you don't want to be. All you have to do is move to the other side of the pole, and that's just a matter of changing your mind. And the truth about the Hermetic laws and the magical laws is that the universe has to accommodate that. It's just there's no way around it. If you start moving into the polarity of prosperity, you have to. Your life starts to demonstrate prosperity. A lot of people hear me talk like this, and they say, "Well, you're all about personal gain, and you don't have any spirituality, and blah 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 blah." And I disagree with that completely. I have a lot of spirituality, but my spirituality is very pragmatic. The way I feel is that if everybody knew how to use their mind to grow in the areas that they are supposed to grow in, that the world would be a lot different. Because the reason why you have certain types of desires are because those are your own, that's your fate that's waiting for you to plummet. So if you have a desire for wealth, then there's nothing wrong with you being wealthy. You go ahead and do that. If you have a desire for companionship, there's nothing wrong with you having a mate. You go ahead and do that. And if everybody started to learn how to do this, that we wouldn't have the poverty that we have anymore. We wouldn't have the violence, we wouldn't have the wars, we wouldn't have the persecution, we wouldn't have the prejudices, because everybody would be able to take some of their power back. Now, the truth of the matter is that 98% of the population probably is never going to be interested in this for real. I mean, they are sort of law of attraction, blah, blah, blah. But as far as like really getting into the training of this and making it work for themselves, there's probably only going to be 2 or 3% of us that are really ever interested in that. And that's just, I don't know why that is. Maybe that'll change one day. But you may as well be one of the 2 or 3%. I mean, what's stopping you? There's nothing wrong with you getting something out of this life. And it's really not that hard. It just takes practice, just like anything in life. You just have to do it every day. So figure out what you want and go for it. Learn about the polarity in your mind. Learn about the law of gender in your mind. Learn about the laws of mentalism, and learn about the magical principles that we're talking about here. That's one of the reasons why I even did a witch's primer, was so that there would be something that a system that would be easy to use, that's effective, that's devoid of a lot of religion, so that people could start to have some results in their lives. Now, it's not the only training. It's not even the best training, but it's decent, and it's free, and it's there for you. So that you have no excuse to not start getting what you want in this life. So don't worry about turn off the news a little bit, turn off the television, turn off all that negative programming, and don't worry so much about what's going on in politics and in the, and in the world as much for just maybe 5 or 10 minutes a day. Then you can go back to all that if you want to. But focus on what you're here to do. What are you here to do? What are you here to accomplish? What is it that you want? And I tell you, when you start getting more of what you want in this life, you are going to be so much more helpful to these other causes. You're going to be so much more powerful to a lot of these other causes that are important to us. I mean, we all care about racism. We all care about sexism. We all care about terrorism and freedom and all of that. That's very important to almost everybody I know. But if you're not able to clean up your own side of the street a little bit and make something work for you, you have very little power to affect change in those other arenas. So let's start. Charity starts at home. Let's start getting ourselves together first, and then we can worry about the rest of the world. All right? Thank you so much for taking a moment with me, and I hope to talk to you soon, and I hope to see you on the forum. And hopefully very soon we will have some announcements about some more intensive trainings. I just there's a lot to deal with. So stay tuned. We are working on it. It's just not happening as quickly as we'd hoped. Anyway, until next time, much love and many blessings.